Hello everyone, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'll be looking at Trees and Creatures, the expansion for Bonfire. If you've seen my review on the Dice Tower, you know how much I like Bonfire. I actually gave it a 9 out of 10 and the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. It is still one of my favorite Feld games, so when I saw there was an expansion, I was excited to see what they were going to add. Now the expansion comes with components for a 5th player, and adds 3 modules which can change up the gameplay, and it's going to be varying degrees on how much the gameplay changes. So, is this expansion a must-own, or should it just be left in the forest? Let's get it to the table, see how it works, and we'll come back to my final thoughts on Trees and Creatures. Now I do want to say before I go into the overview that this is a pre-production copy, so the components you see may not be final. I'm going to assume you know how to play Bonfire already, but if not, you can see my review of the game on this channel to give you an overview of the game. So in this overview, I'm going to be showing you the 3 modules that come in the box. Now the first is not a module, but you get pieces for a 5th player. Everything you need from the player pieces to the extra general pieces are here. Now onto the actual modules. I'm going to go from the smallest impact to the largest impact to gameplay. The first is the events. You add a stack of event cards to the game, and before the start of the game you're going to turn one over. All of these events are applied to all players and are always beneficial. Things like you sail 1 space further when paying blue tiles, or when paying, you can use any resource as any other resource. Every time the first player takes the action to place a fate tile, they will turn over the next event card. It is now the only active event. The next module is the creatures. At the beginning of the game, deal out a number of creatures equal to the number of players plus 2. Starting with the last player, each player will take one of the creatures and return any unused to the box. The creatures will grant you a special ability that is yours for the entire game. The creatures will be things like the Crystal Dragon. Whenever you pay a resource, you can pay with any resource, and at the end of the game, you gain 2 points for each path tile that does not match the Bonfire. Or, you can take the Tickle Cat, where the elders are scored at the end of the game and not when you take them. Or you can even take the Giant Turtle. When you pay 1 blue action tile, you can sail any distance. The final module is probably the biggest change to the gameplay, and this is the Trees module. There's an additional piece added to the board, along with the task tiles to be shuffled in with their regular tasks. There's a new Gnome Elder to add, and a new Novice in play. There are 24 tree tiles made up of blue, red, yellow, and white trees, which are all shuffled and placed in a face-up stack. Draw the top 4 and place them on the board. You'll shuffle the Guardian tiles and place 1 face-up under each of the colored Guardians. Now these tiles will give you a bonus when you have that Guardian and you take the tree's action. So the tree action is not a separate action. You'll have the option to take a tree when you take the white action, the make a procession action when you move your Guardian along your paths. Now once you have moved your Guardian or Guardians, you have the option of buying one of the first 3 trees on the display. You're going to pay the resources in the bottom left of the tree, then take the tree and place it above one of your Guardians along one of your pathways where there is no other tree. Each tree has a different action, and they fall into 3 types: immediate and only once, any number of times during the game, or once at the end of the game. On the tree board, there are also Guardian tokens. When you take the tree action and you have the Guardian on your path, she grants you a small advantage. For example, if you have the pink Guardian and you take a tree, you're also going to receive 1 victory point. You receive all the benefits from all the Guardians you have on your path. The tree module adds an additional novice you can place. If you have 7 trees, you can place the novice. The board also gives you additional space on the high cancel. If you place a novice here, you can take one of the first 3 trees for free that is not a white tree. Once you have taken a tree, shift all the tiles down to fill the empty spot. And at the end of the game, you're going to score additional points for trees. If a tree has the same color as a Bonfire, you score 2 points. You also score 2 points for any white tree next to any color Bonfire. You'll gain points at the end of the game for any trees that grant them, and be aware that some trees also require you to have a Guardian on them to score the points. You get them there by moving the Guardians onto the trees the same way that you would normally move a Guardian. So those are the 3 modules that come with the expansion. So let's get back to the table to see what I thought about Bonfire, Trees, and Creatures. So I'm going to skip talking about the components as this is a pre-production copy of the game, so I can't judge the quality of the components. The theme fits nicely with the base game. That is, the base game is not overly thematic, but the theme the game does have, this one kind of makes sense in that world. So on to the gameplay. I'm going to talk about these in the order of my personal preference. So my least favorite of the modules was actually the event cards. I did like that they were beneficial to all players, but because they came up randomly, sometimes you can take advantage of them and sometimes not. I just found them to be not that interesting. And often they felt like they were just kind of lesser duplicates of the gnome cards in the deck. But because they are coming out randomly, you can't really plan for it. It's more like, oh, I need to do this action. Oh, and the event tile gives me a bonus. Oh, that's cool. This is a module I tend not to use in my games now. I would give it maybe a 6 out of 10. It's fine, but I don't think you're really missing much if you don't play with it. So on to the creatures. Now these were definitely more interesting than events because you actually got to pick them at the beginning of the game, and they have a lasting ability that you can tailor your strategy around while you're playing it. Now I did find some of these maybe more useful, maybe not useful, maybe more enjoyable to play than others, but I don't think there are any that I disliked. Things like the Enchanted Spider. It allows you to place any of your fate tiles instead of just the top or bottom when you take that action. Or maybe the Glimmer Bird that allows you to not move the Great Bonfire, which is, I don't know how many times I've wanted that ability. And it also allows you to build your portals from the left or right side. It's very fun. None of these felt super powerful, but each one definitely gave you advantage at some point during the game. I like this one and almost always play with this module because of how simple it is to add to the game. I would give this one maybe a 7 out of 10. It's not game changing, but it gives you a little help during the game and helps you maybe focus your strategy a little bit. The final module, and my favorite, is also the largest one, the trees. This is the one I feel you're really buying the expansion box for, and I must say I believe it's worth it. The Make a Procession action was pretty critical before, but it felt it maybe a little less interesting in the later stages of the game. You knew you needed to move your guardians along the path to reach the bonfires. Yes, sometimes you stop strategically on some paths to maybe get the resources, but you're still just kind of moving them along. The trees gives you a whole second piece to that action. Where you stop your guardians now has an increased significance, as does when you take the action. Sometimes the tree you really want is on deck and you can't buy it yet, so you can't buy the perfect one on this turn. So do you maybe wait for someone else to buy a tree and then, move the trees along? Or maybe you take 2 procession actions in a row. And which tree to take? Matching the bonfire and tree color is important to get points. But sometimes the action is more important than where it goes. Maybe is getting an extra point for each red tree more important than matching the tree to the bonfire. I also like the addition of the white trees as well. They're more expensive, usually have better abilities, but can match any bonfire. I also like that some of the bonfires required you to put a guardian on them for the end of the game scoring. So again, is it better to get the guardians there or on the bonfire? This module added just the right level of additional gameplay to the base game and one I almost always play with, unless I'm teaching someone new. But if you've played the game a few times, this module is a great addition, and I would give this piece of the module an 8 out of 10. So, would I recommend this expansion box? I'm not going to say this box is an instant buy. If you're just now buying the base game and have never played it before, I'm not sure I would recommend adding expansions for the first few games. If you play the game a few times and enjoy it, then this would be a definite buy. And for that, I'm going to give this module a 7.5 out of 10 and the Dice Tower seal of approval. I will almost always play Bonfire with the Trees module, and the Trees module works so well, they don't mind that the other 2 modules are weaker by comparison. But that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.